Speaking in front of an international audience, I tried a couple of languages. German happens to be my father's favorite language, so I figured I would add that to the presentation and see how it would sound.
Deutsch ist zufällig die Lieblingssprache meines Vaters. Also dachte ich, ich würde das der Präsentation hinzufügen und sehen, wie es klingt.
Now, I usually can't test the accuracy of the translation, but trust me, it's pretty accurate. I was able to conduct this for a group of visiting students at New York Tech that were visiting from Germany. And this was a tremendous bridge between cultures. I was able to use AI to build AI. And so this presentation is really going to talk a little bit about when the dust settles, recalibrating human value in the age of AI dominance. And so I found it pertinent to use AI as a demonstration, to demonstrate its power, its utility, its efficacy in everyday use. So again, this is an international conference. I don't know who we're talking to, but in the case that I wasn't able to connect with you, I decided to take AI to build AI. So this presentation really focuses on a couple of key themes. You'll find about myself throughout this presentation that I'm multidimensional. And because of that, I find certain areas that I want to highlight in order for everyone to understand the power and potential of this technology. So what I did there was called hyper-customization. We're very familiar with, there are apps right now that translate text, speech to text. Google has a number of them, so does Microsoft. But I don't work for those companies. I work for my own companies. And so this technology that I created, I customize it to my specific use case. And I envision a future where all of us will be empowered to customize this technology to our specific use case. I'm also an artist, and so I wanted to give you a snapshot of the artist's brain. This presentation is not text heavy. It's a lot of doodling, it's a lot of snapshotting, but artists are observers, and that's our superpower. And so I'm here today to kind of give you an observation of what I'm seeing in real time as culture and technology are continuing to move forward. So I'll start off with the art part. So I started out I went to school, like we all do. We go to school, we go to study and specialize in something. So this is my fine art that actually my master's degree, I went to Connecticut College, then I went to NYU for my master's degree. This is my master's thesis presentation called Modern Day Hieroglyphics, how we can actually store culture and the truths of our culture in pictures. I use this particular work, there's some more about it. I was actually a colleague of a young woman by the name of Amy Sherrill. She went to Spelman College, and I studied at Clark Atlanta University, and I was able to take my classes with her. And I remember that she and I would muse about the day that we become international artists. And we were talented, we were excited, and we thought our work was going to be seen across the world. Amy eventually specialized in becoming an artist. She actually spent time doing it after we graduated in 1997. And she eventually went on to paint Michelle Obama's painting that is now sitting in the Smithsonian. Now, when I connected with her a couple of years ago, we would talk about, well, how do you exchange value for that painting, right? It must be very hard, because I had given up a long time ago. I wanted to eat. I wanted to eat and pay my rent, and I wanted to be able to move with the speed of the market. She told me that about every 3 months, she would sell a piece for about $10,000. As you divide that, right, you can't even pay rent in New York City for that amount of money every single month. But that was the pace in which the market validated her gift, her skill, and it paid her accordingly until she was given an opportunity for greater visibility. And that greater visibility, she's now at 10x what she can command for paintings. Now, here we are at, this is what we learned. I'm a Gen Xer, by the way, so anyone born in the 1900s, you'll get what I'm talking about, right? So Malcolm Gladwell talks about in his book Outliers, the focus on specialization, being an exercise in about 10,000 hours of doing something to become an expert. And the idea is that once you put in that time will translate into value. And so Amy, she stayed the course and became an artist, a professional artist, and now her payment is commensurate with her experience. I chose a different path because I'm a little bit, again, multidimensional. I became an entrepreneur, I became an educator, and as you can see, a software engineer. I spent the same amount of time specializing in a different, we're going to talk about that today. So here we are, fast forward to 2024, you have a company called Midjourney that now has the ability, with just a simple 8-character text prompt, can actually create images that are comparable to what Amy and I could render over a period of months. This particular prompt was, I said, imagine a captivating photo representation of a cutting-edge tech incubator set with a futuristic landscape. Pictures, sleek designs, advanced technology seamlessly integrated into the environment, and a sense of innovation and progress. This is what it generated. And then when I asked it to upscale, in seconds, it gave me another version of it. And then another version, and then another version. So here's what I realized. The title of this talk was called Recalculating Human Value. Well, that's a misnomer because you can't calculate. Human value is incalculable, right? We are all precious and we are all invaluable, right? And so what I'm really focusing on is recalibrating human capital. So in order to do that, I wanted to define what human capital is. It's the sum of our skills, knowledge, and experiences possessed by an individual population viewed in terms of their value or cost to an organization or country. Here, I've created a simple formula that we can possibly work with. Human capital times time equals market value. Let's look at what market value is. Well, first, time. Let's define time. Now, if you Google time, it's all over the map, right? So I had to find the simplest definition of time. Time is a measurable period during which an action, process, or condition exists or continues. So the time is the period that I apply my skills, apply my knowledge. And the market value is simply the amount for which something can be sold in a given market. Now, that's interesting. Now, I'm going to pull out some folks who really inspired this presentation. My best friend and professor at New York University, Anthony Clark, he's a professor of aerospace and mechanical engineering. He actually gave me some of the calculations that engineers actually use. And what he showed me is that one calculation can actually lead to other calculations. So when we unpack market value, we're really talking about a function of perceived quality. Interestingly enough, these are two, some would say tank tops. My mom would call them undershirts, right? On the left, that undershirt sells for $25. On the right, that undershirt is priced at $890. And the reason for that is that the simple, and it's hard to tell, the logo. Perceived quality behind which the brand is infused sends a signal that it is worth more in the marketplace than something else, comparable ingredients. Now we have quantifiable utility. Quantifiable utility is something that Dr. Matt Walsh from Harvard University actually made me aware of. In his video called Large Language Models and the End of Programming, he actually did some math. And here's the math. He started with a premise that a software engineer in Silicon Valley makes about $300,000 a year with all the perks included. That means massages, breaks, subsidized rent, transportation, $300,000 a year. But effectively, what they're doing is actually reviewing less than 100 lines of code per day. And then he decided to compare that to the GPTs, the large language models that we're all familiar with. And at the cost of looking at 10 tokens per day, which is simply the algorithms that produce the words that we see predictively, right? The price for that is 2 cents. So altogether, the total cost for 1 day software development work is 12 cents. And then it's magnified even larger when you look at 12 cents a day. If you broke down that $300,000 salary, it's $1,200 a day. And you wonder why there's so much disruption. It actually isn't surprising. Here's the qualitative aspects of it. Here is the rationale behind why we're accelerating to this future. Robots do not take breaks. Robots do not require catered lunches or on-site massages. They take the same time, whether they're prototyping, starting something new, or building something in production, and a robot makes plenty of mistakes, and it does it incredibly quickly. We also are looking at time efficiency. Time is money, right? Well, here we have a video of a website called Durable, and you can put in a text prompt and have it build your website in 30 seconds. The only problem is, it doesn't build it in 30 seconds. It builds your website in 10 seconds. And so with my text prompt, it gave me a logo, Better Life Coaching Society. It gave me the framework of a functional website, a mission statement, a brand statement. It actually gives me a section for features where you can actually see the features of this fictitious coaching website. It gives me calls to actions, and it gives me fake customers. If you look down just a little bit, it'll give me fake testimonials from fake customers that all sound very real. So here's the equation: market value plus we have the perceived quality, thank you, and we have the quantifiable utility and the time efficiency. So now we look at the disruption. Raoul Pal, who's an economist, calls this the exponential age. Think about this analogy. It's crude in nature, so forgive me. But if human ingenuity were fruits, each fruit would be unique in its substance, in its ingredients, down to its metabolic properties. And today, what we have with AI, what was done without our awareness, is that they effectively took human ingenuity and put it here. And then told us it's going to create something new, wondrous variety. But essentially, they put all of human ingenuity into a blender. And get the kicker, they're selling it back to us for the low cost of $19.99 per month. So here's the effective business model. I may not have much more time for this, but I want to share just the thinking behind it. This is Eric Schmidt, who is the former CEO of Google. He breaks down the economics of what is behind this new model and why we need to think critically about how we're preparing our young people to actually establish value in the marketplace. It has to happen here at institutions of higher learning. It has to happen in the marketplace. So let's take a quick look at what he says.
The trick is to find legal and business mechanisms that allow people to be properly compensated for their intellectual property while still encouraging use. And there's always been a conflict between the person who wants to have only one viewer and they want to extract $1 million from that one viewer because of scarcity, and the social good of having 1 million viewers who basically monetize at $1, same amount of money. The history of American copyright law and intellectual property rights are that they go back and forth on this issue. And I would argue that the world is a better place that we can get to where where the largest number of people can see the most amount of information and pay for it.
Okay, so let's look at that model. You've got, so again, where I started out as a Gen Xer, with my friend Amy Sherrill, we were specialists, we were looking for the day where we could get paid $1 million for our intellectual property, our human capital, right? We were looking and toiling towards that day. However, we did not realize that the dynamics of the market shifted and that human capital has been devalued because now the goal for those who can control the market, their design is to sell human capital in pieces and chunks. Millions of people monetizing your capital at $1 per person. Mm-hmm. So again, the market dynamics behind this are the customer lifetime value is that if the customer keeps buying over and over again, they're more valuable to the company. So this is why you're seeing so many subscriptions in the marketplace. Thank you for that, Tom. I'm actually going to skip ahead. So you have specialists where we once were. This is an example of what's happening to specialists. I moved from being a painter to a graphic designer. Today, a starting salary for a designer is $55,000 to $75,000. However, that graphic designer is under intense competition by companies that are selling design service powered by AI for a subscription. Here you have Canva's Magic Designer that literally can take any design and apply new colors, new fonts, new typography, in seconds. All again for the low subscription of $119 per month. I've already seen this in my own company. I've had to lay off my development team. Why? AI is a better coder. I don't need to have 5 developers. I just need GitHub, Copilot, and ChatGPT. And it's interesting. I'm going to skip ahead because here, I was waxing nostalgic back in Toy Story. Everybody remembers that Toy Story Pixar animation. Took 4 years to make the movie. Took 4 years to make this animation. Okay. Now we have a model powered by Stable Diffusion that can literally make the same thing in seconds. It's called Sora. Let me skip ahead very quickly because I want you to fully understand these images are not made up. These are all images that are made with a text prompt. These are videos that stop at 10 minutes. Within 6 months, we'll be producing a full hour. So here's the generalist. Here's what I was going to say to you. That this particular title of creative technologist is the value of a generalist, someone that knows a little bit of everything across different disciplines. On a college campus, CSB accredited school, I'm considered a practitioner with industry expertise. And it's because my work is across multiple disciplines. In effect, I'm a generalist, and I'm more valuable than the specialist because I can change whenever I need to. That level of adaptability is what we've got to start teaching in our classrooms. We have to empower our young people to do the same. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead to this. And, I pulled some headlines. This one people will recognize. Tyler Perry, after seeing Sora, decided to keep the $800 million investment in a new film studio. He decided to keep it to himself. Let me end up here with just a few more thoughts. So we are all accelerating to this technology future that we have not necessarily signed up for, but we are being carried in its wake. Here, I'm going to talk a little bit about AI agents. In fact, I'll leave that to the question and answer. I think I'll have about 5 more minutes. Do, right? Okay. Now, one last thing that I will say before I go into the question and answer is the threats. This is Amy Webb, who's a futurist. She gave a talk at South by Southwest about the dangers of the acceleration that we're having to this technological utopia. She put up this image. I don't know if you guys can recognize some of the faces, but these are the faces that are of the governors of our technological future. If you notice what I notice, is that there's not enough diversity there. It is not representative of the world, of the ingenuity that is now benefiting from AI and must contribute to AI. Also, we found that this is an image that was taken from Google Gemini. Google is the opposite end of the spectrum. They emphasize diversity. They wanted representation in their models. They baked in the bias. And so that is the challenge. So we're looking at the jobs of the future. And lastly, we've got to organize because these companies are protected by hyper-funded moats. They are essentially monopolies that will do as they will. It's been said, my mother used to tell me, she's from Barbados, she said, you like to ask for forgiveness as opposed to asking for permission. Essentially, that is what has happened. They've raced ahead and they've created something that is ethically, potentially going to compromise our society, economically compromise our society, and morally compromise our society. But they've done it, and they will ask now for our permission. The question is, will we forgive them or not? Thank you for your time.
So we do have 2 or 3 minutes for questions. Yes, sir.
Yes, excellent presentation. My question is, will human value diminish greatly? Some, what about our free will? Will we be slaves to AI? Totally, some partially? What is your take on that?
So that is an excellent question. I would say that the objective view is that AI is simply algorithms powered by hyper-powered machines. The bias and the inequity that's baked in is that you and I would not be able to replicate the infrastructure that are supporting these superintelligences. Companies like NVIDIA, Like Microsoft, they are investing tens to hundreds of billions of dollars
Right.
on data centers that we cannot necessarily deploy our own capital. However, as institutions of higher learning, we can band together and demand that they give us some of that compute for research, that they give us some of that compute computational power in order to explore the possibilities of this technology. And yes, the promise is there, but I'm more concerned about human beings, flesh and blood, than I am about AI. I think getting in early and getting in now, this is really what it is. Algorithms, numbers that we're looking at computationally, but again, the age-old problems continue to exist. Without representation, without true equity and inclusion and diversity, you're going to have something that's going to be skewed and it's going to be off and have the potential for greater danger. I want to end up by saying this is what I wanted to focus on. And so here's where I think we are going to go. We have to become human advocates. I had an existential crisis in preparation for this particular presentation when I realized something so profound. Made by humans is going to be a tagline in the next couple of years. We're going to learn to appreciate that which was made with human hands. And so it is incredibly important now more than ever to remember that human beings are important. Two people I want to shout out, two human beings, my wife right there in the audience, Ms. Khalil Webster, who's the Chief Innovation Officer, and my brother Roger Maloney, who is my researcher. He's online. I am on this mission to acknowledge my influences, acknowledge those who are behind me, those whose standards, shoulders that I stand on. This is my family. And last but not least, please remember that people are invaluable and incredibly important. Thank you again for your time.
Sorry if I just made, there was one.
Oh, okay.
Just, can we take just one more?
Yeah, absolutely.
There was also
So
a
you're
question
set
online.
up, you're set up going from specialists and then you kind of switched it on us, which was great, and said, but I'm a generalist, which is actually being more successful in the specialist. How does that impact how we train our students?
So we have schools. I remember when I wanted to go to school, I wanted to go to school for computer animation at Syracuse University. If I had gone to that school, that was my focus, and I would have gone for computer programming as well. That would have been specialist, but I wound up going to Connecticut College, where I triple majored in education, economics, and art before I passed out sophomore year, right? I crashed out. But I had the fact that I was able to explore different disciplines gave me the unique perspective that you can hear today, that I can see it from different angles. And because of that, I, as an artist, first and foremost, I've been able to observe how the market shifts and adapt to that. What's happened with the specialists and what you're finding right now and why there's so much transients in the job market is that people went to school to study for a degree for a job that no longer exists. And that is the fundamental problem. Yes.